Sup Vlogquacks, it's been a while since I made a video. I've just been very busy with school and I just never had enough time to sit down to finally record this gosh dang video. So now that I'm on spring break, I'm finally getting around to making the Q&A, and it was mainly just OCs because that seemed to be what people were interested in. I wanted to do something a bit more extravagant, but because of time constraints and I don't know, I'm not really great with coming up with sub-specials, so I was just like, I think I'll just do this instead because I'm not gonna have enough time to do requests, and I always feel like I run into issues with those, so I might not do those too often, but yeah. So today's video I'm going to be doing Q&A about my OCs. It was very generalized questions, but so let's just kind of start. First question is, which was your first OC? So I would say it's really hard to answer technically because I made a lot of characters when I was younger, but I forgot about a lot of them. But I would say the most memorable one was Tiara Rock, who was basically like a fusion of Barbie and Hannah Montana. I don't remember why exactly I made her. I think I just thought the name sounded cool. It sounds very 2000s. Yeah, that's all I remember about Tiara Rock, unfortunately. I guess there was probably lore that I had, but I forgot about it, unfortunately, because that was very long time ago. I made her when I was around 7 or at least 9 years old. I'm gonna say around that range. It's really hard to remember. On to the next question. Which OC do you wish you could draw more? All of them. I don't draw them enough, despite me enjoying making character designs and coming up with stories for them. I just can never draw them. I can think about them all I want to. Like, if you saw my mind, those characters live rent-free in my head, but I can never draw them. I just don't have I think it's just because of time. Like, I feel like school really killed my motivation to do like OC stuff because it just feels like I'm not able to, because a lot of the projects just don't. It's really difficult to draw my OCs just because of that. Like, I feel like once I'm done with school and stuff, I might be able to have more motivation to actually draw my OCs again. I feel really bad because I swear I do love my characters. It's really hard to motivate myself, especially because, you know, there's stuff like fan art as well. I really enjoy like fandom stuff. Like, I made a lot of Alien Stage fan art. I made a lot of Death Note fan art, but I just can never make my own art, my own characters, and it's so sad. One day I'll draw my OCs more. I try to challenge myself, but I'm like, I don't want to force myself to. I don't want to force myself to draw them just for the sake of drawing them, but I also don't want to not ever draw them. I think the way I treat my characters is like, if I am really bored and I have an idea, then I can draw them because it's like, okay, I have an idea, I can do something with them. But if I don't, then I just won't, and I guess that's just, that's how it is. On to the next question. Which OC was the hardest to design? Which OC has the most complicated backstory? I would say Pulcella maybe has the most complicated backstory because he went from like being innocent to kind of becoming a fallen angel, and then because originally he was just, you know, he was like a Cupid. His job was basically being Cupid for mortals, and then one day he fell in love with a mortal, but that's, you know, against angel law or whatever. For some reason he gets punished for it, and during that punishment he just starts having all these evil thoughts and is like, you know what, if no one else can be happy and be in a loving relationship, or if I can't, then nobody else can. So then he starts doing that, and he starts stealing souls because he's like, oh, if I steal enough souls I can make my own dreamland and I can bring back my dead lover, because the immortal that he fell in love with died of heartbreak when they got separated after he was punished. So that sucked. But over time, Pulcella lost sight of his true goal, and he ended up just becoming this evil piece of shit that is just now stealing souls kind of for the hell of it. On to the next question. Which OC do you think would willingly jump off a balcony and land like a champ? Don't worry, there'll be applause in the background. Alright, that's a funny question. Okay. I would say, I'm just gonna list them off. I would say that Wendeline, Blitz, Blue Birthday, Giselle, Chanyeol, Francis, and Shen would all jump off a balcony, and they would all land without a problem. For different reasons and different reasons why they jump off, but they would all probably do it perfectly. That's a really funny question. On to the next one. Do you have a favorite OC? I have several, so I'm just gonna list my top 5 instead, because I feel like if I were to list, because I'm not gonna include Pulcella-Lulu because I feel like it's kind of obvious that they're gonna be like the top OCs since they're supposed to be my mascots. So From number 5 to 1, we have Francis, Wendeline, Navrina Flora, Blue Birthday, and Philotea at number 1. Yeah, I love Philotea. He is probably the OC that I draw like the most. And then the other 4, I love them just because of their backstories and their overall vibes and designs. So yeah, on to the next question. What inspired your OCs? A lot of things. I get inspired very easily, which is why I make my OCs so often. Like, I make a lot of characters just because a lot of things just really give me really cool ideas, and it can be anything. I've got inspired by weird dreams that I've had. I have a lot of Pinterest stuff saved, like a lot of boards, and sometimes I'll look through there and I'll get inspired. I get inspired by other people's OCs, which some people might not like, but listen, if I'm not ripping off your character, then I don't see a problem. And when I say inspired, I just mostly mean like, oh, this gives me an idea to do something sort of my own twist version of what they did, but also in a way that's not gonna seem like I'm ripping them off. So yeah, I also get inspired by songs and media tropes. Like sometimes there's a certain type of character archetype that I might find interesting. You know, every time I go on Twitter, there's always that trend of like character tropes I don't like, or character tropes that I see so often in media, and that usually gives me ideas. Like I like doing that, or I like subverting them, or I play into the archetype in a way, but I add my own little, I guess you could say a subversion, but maybe it's like, I don't know. I like just making characters based off of things. Also like motifs, like for example, I don't know, like elemental motifs or something like that. I don't think I have any characters like that, but I'm just saying that's an example. I like making themes. I like making groups of characters because I can make them to different themes, so that's another thing. And then I've also got inspired by actual fictional characters. I am so easily inspired by stuff that I watch. So maybe that's why sometimes I get art block, because if I'm not watching like a certain anime a lot or like certain series, I tend to kind of get into creative blocks. So that might explain those blocks. But yeah, when I watch certain things like Death Note or some other anime that I can't think of, like Hunter x Hunter or Dragon Ball, like that inspires me because those stories are just so wacky and interesting that I'm like, oh, I would love to incorporate that into my own world in some sort of way. So that's what inspires my OCs. On to the last question. So these two questions are basically the same, so I'm just gonna mix them together into one. But basically they were just asking if I could make my characters into some sort of series or show or whatever, any sort of piece of media, what would I do with them, or something like that. And I would love to make my characters, why am I saying it like this? I would love to put my characters in some sort of series. The Flower Boys thing is technically a series already. It's a multimedia thing, so it's like different variety of things ranging from like paintings or I guess videos or anything like that, you know. That's technically a series that I'm working on, and it's not gonna end really. I'm gonna continue making stuff for it. It's mostly just gonna, I'm not sure. It's kind of one of those things where it's just sort of, I'm winging it. I'm just kind of doing it as I go, and eventually one day I might stop and give it a definitive ending. But for now, I'm going to kind of just keep building up with the lore. And then there's Story Quest, which is a very, very convoluted thing that I had going on when I was younger. I'm not going to go into it, but basically, it was this Dragon Quest inspired story that I had since like middle school, and I was really trying to like make it into something because it was gonna be like my magnum opus. Like I was gonna make it into an animated series, but I kept remaking the plot over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, to the point where I just kind of gave up, and I decided to approach it in a very different way, where I kind of made it like how I do with my current characters, where I have them all live like in the world and they all have like their own things going on, rather than just a linear story, because it gives me more, I guess, freedom to kind of do whatever I want, rather than like, you know, a concrete story. And if I wanted to focus on a story, I could pick and choose which characters to include, and maybe the other characters can make cameos. So that's another one. And it would also be really interesting to make something with the Supernatural Research Club, which are basically just a group of characters that I redesigned from middle school when I was a weeaboo, and pretty much they just investigate yokai because they live in Japan. and that's why I said they're my weeaboo phase, because they're all Japanese, and oh boy. If you watched that one sketchbook tour video I made a very long time ago, where I titled it something about my weeaboo phase, those are the characters that I'm referencing. And then also You Rascal, which is a group of K-pop OCs that I have, which is very funny because I'm not really into K-pop that much anymore. I like listening to some songs, but I'm not like in depth with like the fandom or whatever anymore, just because it's hard to keep up with everything. But it'd be cool to make something with them. I don't know, like a fan-made video or something. Who knows? And then my Alien Stage OCs. Oh my gosh, guys, I would love to make a fan-made like Alien Stage episode. I have been wanting to do that for a really long time. I just don't have the time, but one day when I get the chance, I'm going to do it because that would be so fucking cool. I might wait until things progress with Alien Stage, just because there's certain lore things that we still don't know about, and I don't want to like make the video and then it's like, oh, well, this thing turned out to not be true, or this or that or whatever. So I'm like, I might wait, but I really would love to make an Alien Stage OC fan round or something. It will probably not disrupt the canon anyway. It's gonna be its own thing, but yeah. And then Pretty Witch Trio, which is a group of witch trainees that, let's just say there's a lot of drama and emotional turmoil in that little story. I would love to make something with that. In fact, I was considering it, but I just didn't have the time. So really, it's all about time at this point. If I had more time and energy to do a lot of these things, I would love to make all of these into series or something like that. But yeah, that's all I have to say for that last question/questions combined. I'll see you quacks later.
I will call it good.